I like how it gives you an option to get the heck out. That's funny.
Hello, everybody. My name is Maureen, and I have my trusty sidekick, my co-maven.
I'm Cameron Dreamshare Montgomery. Welcome.
Okay, I'm gonna
Makes you think of.
I'm just gonna stop it. There we go. We just wanted to start off with some Kodachrome to set the mood. We're going to be doing a lovely photography and videography tutorial for all you wannabe photographers and videographers out there. We're hoping that this will help you in your documentation journey as you work with your clients and engage in various activities in the community that need to be documented. So I'm going to start with a photography basics. This is very, very, very basic. So these are just like some, because we're going to touch on like key points of things that you need to do to take a great photograph. So to start, I'm going to assume most of you are using these devices here. Some of you might have some of, an SLR type camera. Most of you are going to have your cell phones with you. You probably have them at work. They're probably sitting in your pockets. The easiest thing for you to use. First thing you do before you do anything, see this little screen back here? You give it a little wipe. The one in the front, give it a little wipe. So the most important thing, this thing sits in your pocket, you're touching it all the time, your lenses get dirty, dirty, dirty. Number one rule for taking good pictures, clean your lenses. So photography is so much more. There are some photographers who only use cell phones to take their pictures. It's about so much more than having a good camera. Really, it's like learning to look at the things around you, learning how to see the light, learning some rules about composition, and all that. So don't think that you can't be a great photographer, because you can, even with your cell phone. So I always say practice makes perfect. Play, 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 have fun taking pictures. Celebrate when you take a really good picture. And if you don't, then just try and try again. So photography is just all about play. Creativity in general is all about play. So don't get discouraged, just keep trying, and guaranteed you're gonna, your skills will improve the more you do. So my first rule of thumb is look around you, check your surroundings. You do not want to take a picture where there's piles of clutter everywhere, where there's all kinds of things in the background. Your focus should really be on your subject, and that's it. I go into people's houses, I move their furniture around sometimes, I put it back. But if you want to take a really good picture and you want the focus to be on your subject, sometimes you have to be willing to move things around. So I ask permission. Is it okay if we move this? I just really want to take the best picture possible. I've moved people's couches, I've moved their TV stands. Like, if it's really important for me to take a good picture, I'll move things around. So don't be afraid to do that. Your main focus should be your subject, and you should have as clean a background as possible, because things in your background distract. If I had piles of garbage all around her, you wouldn't be focused on this beautiful model. You'd be focusing on all the piles of garbage. So number one rule, and this is a good example. This is my dog, Mabel. My living room is not clean. My living room is a hot mess. I don't want you to see all the mess. I don't want you judging me. So my focus is on that cute little dog on the couch. It's nice and close. It's nice and tight. You don't see the clutter here. You don't see the clutter here. That's my focus, is my cute little dog. And you go, wow, she might even be a neat person. You just don't know.
Maybe she made that quilt.
Yeah, and maybe she even made the quilt. So, and sometimes even getting closer than that is a good option. So it depends what you're shooting. I'm going to say with some of the for the people who work with seniors, some of the baskets you're going to be getting, I mean, close-ups of some of those things in people's hands would make a beautiful picture. Close-ups of some of those items on desks and on shelves would make a beautiful picture. So don't be afraid to get up close and get really, really nice and tight with your pictures. So another really, really important thing is light. This is like critical when taking pictures. I know I look up at the sky and at the sun so much. I think one day I'm going to go sun blind because I'm just always looking at the sun and seeing where it is. Unless you have a really great camera and you have flashes and good light set up, you want to look for nice pockets of natural light. So indoors, shooting by windows is really your best bet. You should have your model should never kind of have their back to the window because they're going to be all nice and dark. You want your model to be, if this is my window here, you know, I want my model to maybe be here, to maybe be facing the window like this. You don't want to have your model like this because it's just going to be dark. Play with it. Go by a window with your cell phone camera. Take one of your kids, take your spouse, play with it. Go by a window and see what the light's going to look like in those various situations. Move your model around and just keep taking some pictures. Again, it's experimenting so that you can see. It's one thing for me to tell you, but to actually go through the motions of doing it, you're going to see how a window, how it changes just based on how your body kind of moves towards and away from it. So, you know, shooting by windows can create, you'll see my model here. So all these pictures in here, by the way, are all mine. But the model that I shot here, she was standing right in front of one of my windows in my living room. And you can see that beautiful little catch light in her eye, that little like glimmer of white that makes her look, you know, so alive and so beautiful. So, and that's window light. I had no other light. It was just the window. So windows are great. If you're outdoors, if you catch yourself outside, you really want to look for shade, pockets of shade, or look for things that can kind of like block out your light. So this is my daughter. It was in the middle of the day. So we went to the woods and you can see the light is like nicely filtered. I have the sun behind her. That light is nicely filtered out by all of the trees. So it's not harsh whatsoever. You can look for overhangs if you're by, you know, sometimes if you're out by the barns, like which side doesn't have the sun kind of pointing on it. If you absolutely have to shoot in the sun, my rule of thumb is the sun is always behind my models, because if the sun's in their face, they're going to be like this. They're going to be squinting, and it also just creates really ugly patches of light a lot of times on their faces. So you do the best you can with what you have. I know sometimes you can't create the ideal situation. So just things again to think about if you have some control over that. But sometimes you don't. So weddings, you know, happen when they do, usually in the middle of the day. Sometimes people don't think about where they can stand. So here the sun's like beating down right on the people. And I mean, you can see in their faces, you can see the pockets of sort of like the bright light, you know, combined with the shadows. It's not the nicest light, but sometimes these things can be fixed after the fact, either in Lightroom, or I'm going to show you guys an app called Snapseed, and you can fix it a bit, but it's not ideal in any situation. So exposure, normally in your cell phone is going to kind of like do all this work for you, so you don't really have to think. And I'm not going to get into ISOs and exposure and all that great stuff. So this is sort of my very brief, the one on the side. So the one to the left is overexposed. Those pictures, when you overexpose a picture, it cannot be fixed. And if you bring it into Lightroom or something afterwards, you can't get those details back. So overexposed is always bad. Underexposed, totally fixable. I can bring up my light in Lightroom or Snapseed, and I can make that picture look nice. And the third one is sort of like, that's kind of where you want your pictures to be. So just so you kind of know what you're shooting with. So if you notice you're shooting, if you have a camera that you have control over, or if you're using an app that you have control over, just make sure you're not overexposing your pictures, because they're really hard to fix and it's really disappointing. Sometimes I even still take overexposed pictures from time to time, and it's really disappointing because you can't bring back the detail. They're just sort of gone. Golden hour, this is the holy grail to photographers and videographers too, I'm sure. This is like the first thing in the morning, when the sun's rising, or at night when the sun's going down. The light is beautiful and it's absolutely perfect. Same with cloudy days, are also like just beautiful for light. best times of day for photography. So again, I always have the sun behind my models, and that's how you get those beautiful little glimmer of light coming out from around them. So, and these are just some more examples of playing with light at different times of day. The one with the young girl on the beach holding the stick. So this is kind of a new thing in the world of photography. It's called the blue hour. So instead of the golden hour, you have the blue hour, and it's kind of when the sun has disappeared and, you know, everything just kind of gets this like bluish hinge before, you know, it gets really dark. And that's another really nice time of day to go out and play. Again, it's all about play. Go out, play with light, have fun, you know, play with the sun behind you, see what kind of flares come out behind your models or your subjects. Like, really, it's all about having fun. So moving on to composition, and I'm not reading my cue cards like verbatim. I just sort of, you know, I just like to have them just to help guide me. So the rule of thirds is a kind of an important rule to remember. So it's something that a lot of people use just to create interest in a photograph. So instead of having your model like directly in the center of your picture, you're moving them to either the 1/3 here, the 1/3 here. So if you have a grid, a lot of times your cell phone, whatever app you're using, you can hit a grid option and you'll actually see this grid down here come up on your phone. So it's positioning your models on those two lines instead of right in the center. And it's just all about, it's not a hard, fast rule. Sometimes putting your subject right in the middle is going to be like right where you want to be. It's just something to consider just to create a more interesting and more dynamic picture. But again, you know, you're using your judgment. So this is kind of more of a, to me, of an artistic sort of rule. It's not, you know, don't feel hard pressed to follow this all the time. So, and you'll sort of see. So, and I'm just going to go through a bunch of like composition tips. Again, this is like the quick and dirty photography 101. So creative ways to frame your subjects, doorways, branches. I love out here, I can use lots of branches and things in nature to frame my subjects. Window frames are also, you know, an interesting way. So it's finding things in your environment that you can use to sort of create a natural sort of frame around your the person or thing that you're photographing. Limbs, this one's really important. When I first started taking pictures, I was so excited to take pictures. I would cut off people all the time because I would move around and just get so caught up in the moment. But it's really important to remember not to cut off limbs. So you can sometimes, but if you're really trying to get, you know, a full body shot. So on the left is a picture of a band that I took. It was really important. I wanted all their limbs in that picture. So I wanted to make sure I had enough, you know, ample space on the bottom, ample space on top, ample space all around. So when they printed it, it would look nice. You know, so it's just something to keep in mind. I mean, here is a little different. I wanted a nice close-up of my kids, you know, loving each other. This is a rare moment in my home. So, you know, a basic rule of thumb is you don't cut people off at any joint that bends. So think of your own body. Where do things bend? You don't want to cut people off because then it looks like they're just missing a whole part of their anatomy. You'll see when it looks weird, it does stick out to you a little bit. So you'll start to notice when you cut people off in weird ways. It looks a little odd. So leading lines and converging lines, again, if you have these things in your environment, they can be really fun to play with. So again, these are just some playful tips to helping you take better photographs. So leading lines lead you into a photograph. Converging lines are where the lines kind of come together on the horizon or to a specific place. So again, if you have these things in your environment, use them. I mean, sometimes in a home, I would think of a banister going up the stairs would be a good, you know, a good potential leading line. So horizon lines, these are another fun one. And again, you can fix these in post-processing, but you want to make sure you're not taking your pictures like this. You know, and sometimes you will because you're going to get caught up in the moment and you're going to be excited and the whole back wall will look crooked like this, you know, or maybe you've had some wine after work. But it's important your horizon lines are nice and straight. Again, this is something that you can fix afterwards, but it just kind of elevates your pictures when your horizon lines are nice and straight, the way that they should be, when you see them. Because if not, you're looking at pictures like this sometimes. So just kind of a good rule of thumb. Different angles, capturing things from different ways. So, again, I think when you're getting these beautiful items in these baskets, an interesting shot can be straight down, on a table. You could lay items out on a table again, or have them in somebody's hands and shoot them from up above. Even shoot an item like this going up into someone's hands or something. There's different, try to see the world, instead of taking a picture just like this, it's like trying to see the environment around you in different ways. So don't be afraid to shoot up or shoot down. One thing to keep in mind when you shoot from down low with, women and men of a certain age, and I'm at that age, is to watch for double chins. So always important, because women in particular do not like seeing themselves with double chins. Yes, I know I wouldn't like doing that. So, and I wouldn't like seeing myself that way. So I always try to be mindful. I think like by the time a woman hits about 30, it's like usually time to start, keeping your eye when you're taking pictures. So sometimes in that case, if you're taking pictures of a person, taking a picture from a bit of a higher angle can be nice. And sometimes I just say to people, just like,
We lost you for a minute, Maureen, but
Oh, am I back?
we lost you at double chins. Oh no, I think we lost you again.
Oh no, am I back?
Yeah, you're back. You're back.
Okay. Anyway, the moral of the story is be mindful of double chins. If you shoot from down low, you'll have a double chin sometimes. If you shoot from up high, you tend not to. So that's the rule of thumb with that. And I'm almost done, so it'll be okay if I disappear. Try to give the viewer, so filling the frame. This is in Times Square. There's action everywhere. There's lots of things happening. So I'm not mindful of like focusing in on one particular subject. I want to kind of get it all, because there's lots of stuff going on and it's really exciting. So filling the frame in this case was like just what we needed to capture sort of the essence of what was happening there. So again, these are just like things for general interest, symmetry and patterns. Finding things, this was like in PEI, I think they're the muscle traps in PEI. There were tons of them. So just, again, makes for just an interesting sort of image. Mood and emotion. So this is what I'm really big on. I love pictures where people just aren't looking at me and smiling. I like pictures where people are looking at each other and engaged with each other and doing things. These images, I mean, they look very candid, but again, I'm offering suggestions to people. Like, so the couple on the right, whisper something in her ear, tell her something you love about her. The woman in the center, like, let's dance, let's pretend your favorite song is on and let's dance. The couple on the left, let's have a walk, look at each other when you're walking, talk to each other, hold hands. So you can create these moments with people. And sometimes it's just lurking in the background until you see these moments happen and you're just ready. You're watching for them. You're ready for them. So when they happen, you can capture them. So product photography, I won't talk too much about this, except again, I'm just thinking of some of the items you get that you might be photographing. Again, it's like those close-ups, finding nice clean backgrounds or things in the environment to put them with, like the Paradiso bees. I paired it with a plant that I had in my house. Like, it's just looking for things that I can pair that with where it'll look really nice. Hands, I love products and items in hands. I think hands are beautiful and, just make for such a beautiful photograph. So textures, using different textures, tablecloths, napkins, wooden trays, anything to kind of bring more interest into a photograph is kind of fun. So I'm not really going to get into this. It's more, I think what's important, especially with the baskets that you're getting, is just showing pictures of the people with the things that they're getting, with the items they're getting, whether again, it's in their hands or it's in their homes or, you know, them holding the basket in their hands. Like I think look for ways to creatively capture that and capture what they do with the items. And then to end, you know, as always, don't be afraid to have a little bit of fun. So if there's anything I can leave you with, it's just have fun, play, and try again, because again, you're going to get photographs that you don't like, but remembering some of these tips, even the simplest ones, like removing the clutter and cleaning your lens, will make a huge difference in taking photos with your cell phone. So, and rules were made to be broken. So these are tips and tricks, you know, just things for you to think about, but none of these rules are hard, fast. None of the things I've told you, except for cleaning your lens and getting rid of the clutter, those are the two hard, fast, but rules are made to be broken. Have fun and play. Yeah, and take lots of pictures. I'm just going to see what's in the chat because I see, oh, internet. Okay, that's you, Kathy. Okay, and so the app, I was hoping I could plug my lovely cell phone into the computer and I'd be able to show you this app, but it is not working. So I'm going to tell you about it. It is called Snapseed, and it's a free download. Okay, you probably can't even see this. It looks like a little leaf. So it's a little leaf with a little rectangle. It's called Snapseed. You can get this from any of the app stores, your Google app, your Apple App Store, and it's a free download and it's really easy to use. I'm going to post a YouTube link to get to a tutorial on how to use it. That'll walk you through. It'll probably take 5 minutes. And if you want to dive in, YouTube really is your best friend for learning how to do anything. So if you go to YouTube and type in Snapseed, it'll take you probably to like 1,000 tutorials on how to use Snapseed. Really easy app. People who do cell phone photography professionally use this app quite frequently, and it's free. And yeah, it's an amazing app. You open your picture, you have filters you can put on it. You can change, you know, you can rotate your image, change the lighting, and just change everything with like just using your fingers. So it's a really good app to check out. Again, like with everything, try it, play with it, bring some pictures in, see what it can do for you. It's very user friendly. So I can't see many of you having a problem, but again, I'll post a link to a tutorial. And I'm sorry, my cell phone, I tried like 4 or 5 times to get it to work and it just was not cooperative. So I'm going to pass it over now. We're going to dive into some videography with Cameron.
Hello.
Oh, Kathy.
Will the PowerPoint be available, as a tip sheet for us, Maureen?
Well, I'm going to post this whole thing onto you. I can print it out for you, I guess.
Or just send a link to it?
Yeah,
so that I can have it.
We'll post everything was going to go on YouTube, so you'll get the whole PowerPoint with that.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Sweet. All right, so I'll take it from here. Let me just share my screen. So I guess there's sort of creative videography, and then this project is documentation, which is well obviously creativity is involved in any kind of photo or film capture, but some of the tips I'm going to give you are going to be useful for more abstract kind of stuff, but also for this kind of documentation. So let's just start. I'm just going to open my slide here. There we go. So this is an example of a scene that we shot for Marigold and the Unicorn. And this is the frame of sort of like almost what the video camera is seeing, just framed in this way. This is the actress, you know, performing her role. But then if you take a step back, you can see someone holding the shot list, actors getting ready to come into the scene, producer. And then if you take another step back, you see that it's a room full of like loud children doing a whole bunch of stuff. in the background. So this is framing, an example of framing, but also I call it movie magic, because really what you're showing your viewer is very curated. And this kind of gets that message across. So a couple things. Framing, I think, is like for film is the most important thing, because a lot of things are going on at the same time with sound and light and, you know, visuals and the camera moving or still. And so you really don't want people to be too distracted by, you know, other things that are going on. So framing is really important, and thinking about framing, like how you can get that story across is important going into it. So I would say the number one thing for video for documentation purposes is that you set up a way to stabilize your camera. So if you're using a phone, one of the biggest problems with using a phone for video is that your hand moves like so much. And at least when you're taking a photo, you know, you have that moment of focus, and then you capture the photo. But when it comes to video, it can be very distracting if, you know, you're just even moving a little bit. So I think that if you're going to people's houses, I know that not everyone's going to have a tripod, but even if you have something that you can use. So one of my favorite stories for like kind of low tech videography is Quentin Tarantino. When he was a teenager, he used to make all kinds of videos. And his first movie, he used a baby carriage as a dolly to stabilize the camera. So really anything works. If you can make it stabilize your image, it doesn't matter whether it was, you know, a $5,000 gimbal or whether it was a baby carriage that you found in the trash. Like if it stabilizes your camera, that's what's important. So I just grabbed a couple items that you could use. So like this is a little table easel. You could use a table easel if you set up your camera on it, you know, just really simply. Really, really, really basic. Or even if you're like coming up to someone's door and, you know, you see kind of a ledge somewhere that's kind of at eye level where you're going to capture the moment, just setting up your camera there just to frame the moment is a way you could do it. Or like I grabbed this is like a plate, you know, one of those antique plate holders. It's such a simple thing, but you can use it as a stabilizer for your phone, just setting it on the table, having something to lean it up against. You also always want to shoot horizontally. So this way, that's really important, unless you're making a TikTok video, that's different. But if we're sharing these on Facebook or on IGTV, then having it horizontally is really important. So thinking about that as you're approaching the door, thinking about those things, horizontal, you know, image stabilization. I also always bring gaff tape, but you can use masking tape as well. Because you just, if your camera's leaned up against something, but the angle is off, you can just put a little piece of tape just to hold it in place and hold it steady. Is a really useful little tool. And you can even tape, I've taped my phone to walls before, or like just to anything, tape it to a car. If you're doing a scene, I guess if you're doing a scene where the camera, I mean, I've taped like a GoPro to a car before to get that kind of shot. So movie magic is framing, but it's also just thinking creatively about what the story is that you want to tell, what the scene is that you want to portray, and how are you going to position your camera and light the scene to create that effect. So Maureen talked about lighting. I think lighting is super important. For you guys though, I would say if you're going door to door, I guess this is a question for Kathy. Would this be someone's kind of going into a living room, or it's kind of a doorstep type of a thing?
Well, the person is carrying a basket.
Mm-hmm.
And knocking on the door. I guess I'm thinking, wow, that's a fun moment at the door, right? Mm-hmm. With the basket, but then that's only maybe if two people are delivering, because one has got the basket and they're quite loaded because there's lots of things that are being given in these baskets. so they could be bulky, they could be heavy. To have the phone may be too much. So, but
Mhm.
there is this idea of having a door shot,
Yeah.
opening the door, the big smile on the face. But it's probably more likely that they're going in and of course then there's shoes have to go off, and everyone is probably mad. Well, maybe not the client, but the staff person's got their mask on. And you're kind of settling in, bringing the basket to a table, to a couch or somewhere. And then the looking at the various things inside. And that's most likely the moment when a staff person could go in and get the camera and start snapping or videotaping.
Mhm.
I'm thinking the experience, whatever's happening. And if
Okay.
they're comfortable enough to kind of explore around it, right? To maybe get comfortable and get situated, get solid, and then they could do a little video, or maybe start moving around and snapping some, 180 degrees of the experience with stills, or maybe with video. So, but then they've settled in the house, they're looking at the baskets, and I'm reminded now we've got to get consent from our clients to go ahead and snap and be comfortable with that. Some are going to be fine. Some might be uncomfortable. Everyone's going to want to know what it's for. But I think there's been plenty of experiences so far where staff have on their own been getting Valentines made by children. And then our PSWs are distributing them, or she is distributing them. And she's able to snap just a picture of them holding the Valentine that was made by a 5-year-old in Cumbermere. So there's definitely going to be clients who are ready to kind of say that, do the kind of posed, say cheese kind of picture. And others that will be fine maybe with some of those, get capturing kind of a more natural moment too. It'll depend on the person too, who's going in. But it's important. We want our staff to feel the joy of the time. It's very fun to deliver these baskets.
Yeah.
And to have time to gather a little bit more of the joy.
Okay. So then it might be interesting to do a staff self video before, just explaining it, talking about the excitement of it. And then, so with any kind of video, you want to get a mix of mids, wides, and closes, and like close-ups. So I would say get kind of like a wide shot, maybe of the street, or walking up with the basket. Get kind of a shot of that if they're comfortable. Then maybe do stabilize the camera, put it somewhere, because it does sound like there's going to be some spontaneous shaky footage, and that's okay, but you kind of want to mix it with something stable so that it's not like stressing your eyes and your brain out when you're watching it. So if you mix in some stable shots with the messy stuff, it's fine. So maybe get a stable shot of the staff person saying like, oh, I'm really excited. This is the house of this person, and this is how long I've been working with them, and or whatever details are kind of on their mind. And then get like that shaky shot, or if there's a place on the porch to set up the camera, do that. But if there's not, then it'll just have to be a kind of a messy hand cam shot, which is okay. And then get inside. Maybe even before going in, do the close up of the things in the basket, like Maureen suggested, or items in their hands too. That sounds like a really good opportunity for a close up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have snapped some pictures with seniors where I've seen Andy's little wooden tray that has 3 legs. It was part of the baskets way back. Remember, Jen? Maureen, when one of the very first baskets that they did, and Andy made these little round things with 3 little tiny weak legs. I see them everywhere. I see them. Their staff person has told me about a client who's kept it in front of his TV. And they thought, and it was time to remove it. It was time to clean everything off and put it somewhere else. But they came back and the item, the little table, the little tripod table was back in front of his TV.
Aw.
Cute.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Watching that station where you do fire, the fire, the logs are burning, continuous log burning, the fireplace station.
Yeah, yeah.
That was very funny to have a little wooden table in front of that, in front of that
Cozy.
ongoing, yeah. So there's
Yeah.
some, and then others had put like stickers on it, There's some kind of personalization that has happened with some of these items in the basket, and I have taken and snapped a few shots just to say, hey, look at this. It still lives.
So asking about things that stick out in the moment spontaneously would be great. And also I like the idea of like uncapped. There's like an uncapped movement, which is just walking around and never having your cap on your camera, or like continuous rolling. And so like if I'm making a movie, I just press record and I record between takes too, because sometimes really funny or good things happen between takes. And so I don't mind having all the excess footage. So sometimes if you're spontaneously having a conversation, if you weren't recording, it's gone. You can't, recreate it or whatever. With video, it's like you only have one chance. So continuously rolling. So knowing after you do your staged, your video, your self video where you're talking about, my name is this and this is where I'm going, this is what I'm doing. And then coming up to the door, once it's spontaneous, just keep it rolling and don't press stop.
Mm-hmm.
If you can.
Mm-hmm.
And then you never know, you might get something just completely beautiful that you didn't anticipate.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Of course, we'll come up with the challenge of editing as
Yeah.
well, right?
But
Because we're not,
we can we can take care of that. We can take care of that.
Capture. Yeah, I like to think that we could get some help in that department with the photos as well, Maureen, right? I mean, if we could, yeah, it's going to be, and I think the same, and here's one of my PSWs coming in right now. The same with any volunteers. How much can you process the information? And that I feel is going to come back to us coordinating a project, right? To make something of whatever is collected visually, moving or still.
The other really important
Right.
component.
Probably.
You're not in a windy place because wind makes the mic sound awful. Yeah, so outside is nice for the light, but making sure that you're sort of sheltered from the wind is important. Getting nice wide shots and not worrying about sound, and making sure you have those wide things to sort of draw you in. But then whenever you're capturing sound, or if there's a lot of, like if someone's talking, making sure that you're close up, because even if it's
the phone
physically close, yeah.
Mhm.
So that you're getting the clearest sound that you can get, and yeah, that's I think going to be the most difficult thing,
Mhm.
probably.
Mhm.
So making sure that even if you have sort of two people standing, it's tempting to kind of pull back for like a 2-shot, but if you don't have a mic, then
Oh.
you do lose some of the sound. And when they're turning and facing each other, it's just not picking up. Like even you guys at the CRC, I'm having trouble hearing you, just even in this conversation, just because there's 2 of you and you've accommodated for a 2-shot. So thinking about even trying to stabilize. So something you can do if you have to stabilize is locking your elbows and turning to be as stable as possible. Because if you're holding it like this, it's just going to be all over the place. But if you just like lock your elbows and you're turning, it's going to be somewhat of a smooth situation. So getting nice and close, like really having the person's whole face in the frame, and then as the other person's talking, panning. It'll be messy, people talking back and forth, but to get the sound, it's really important.
Is there anything you can plug in to are there any cheap mics you can get to plug in to make that better?
I always plug in. I always plug in mics, like no matter what, even if I'm capturing video that I don't even think I'm going to use the sound, I always try to capture as good of sound as possible, just in case. I'd say you could probably get, you could probably get like a cheap mic on Amazon for like $50 if you wanted to, you know? Yeah. But sound capturing devices are just like if you have a lav, that would be ideal. If you have a lav mic, you can pin onto someone and you can even hold it, you know, or like a Rode mic. Actually, a Rode mic is like probably $150, $200 if you're like serious about sound capture. But yeah, I'd say most people are more likely going to get more value out of like an enhanced lens for visuals, you know, on their phone or whatever. If they're going to invest in something for their phone, it's not going to be sound. But yeah, best you can do is get nice and close and just try to don't put your finger over the microphone. I've seen that happen before, where people accidentally put their finger over the microphone and they get no sound at all.
Where is it
on everyone's? Is going to be different, but it'll be where, like when you're talking, it'll be down at the bottom somewhere. Mine is like those three little.
Oh, in there, would it be down in there?
Yeah.
Can you see that? I've got two of them.
Yeah.
Are they both microphones?
I would imagine they're both mics. Yeah. So if you cover that up, it'll really inhibit the sound capture.
So in other words, actually this device on the phone is really helpful to hold it, because then I can just go like this and I bring the mic up right. I could like, what's the distance from the mouth? Ideal.
So the thing is also, okay, first of all, it's like a bad quality mic. So it's never going to be like ideal sound capture ever. Right. I don't know of any phone that really has a good mic, but if you get too close to a good mic, you're going to max out your levels. Just like an overexposed or underexposed photograph, it'll be overexposed, the sound, and it'll just like max out. And then it depends on the mic, but it'll do different things. But then it's like, you don't have the data to edit it like an overexposed photo. So you don't want to be, but even just like a few inches is like pretty good. But that's like if you're blowing into it like that, it's like really bad. But even like this close is what you're supposed to be doing with this. So if you're taking a video from a couple meters away, like you're already losing a lot of sound and getting a lot of excess sound. So the other thing is you don't want to be standing near a road or, you know, anywhere where there's a whole bunch of cars or external noise. Yeah, all those things can be really detrimental. Yeah, but if you're inside, then you have to have good light.
Yeah, you know what I'm picturing? An unbasketing instead of an unboxing.
Yeah,
I'm picturing like somebody going through every and the, you know, how neat it would be to capture people's expressions as they get, you know, they find something else in their basket. If someone was open to that, like that would be a fun one too. It's just like an unbasketing, the reveal.
Yeah, I like that.
That's a great idea. So I have two little examples I want to show you. Let me just get them up on the screen. Okay, one, this is really funny. Okay, so movie magic is like, the idea of movie magic is like, just, you can do anything with sound and visuals and light, you know, like you can make anything look like anything, and you can just really play with something to make it magical. And okay, here's my example. Okay, this is funny. This is a short film that was made by a 9-year-old that is like, how are we going to make this mummy's tomb that's filmed in the basement at the studio look like a real mummy's tomb with no budget? Just like, this is a little example. Can you hear the sound?
Not yet. No.
Oh yeah, you can't hear the sound.
Nope.
Okay, the sound is essential. Okay, so you saw the visual.
So when you stop, if you stop the share, stop share and go back and reshare and then click share computer audio.
Okay, sorry, stop share.
Yeah, and then now go back to share, go to share screen. There should be a share computer audio.
Yeah, it says share sound. Okay. How about now?
Now we got it.
Oh, great. Okay, let me just go back a little bit. Okay. So it's good you saw it without the sound, because
It's a tomb.
yeah, so you can see that just those are cardboard boxes that are painted to look like rocks, and just with adding a sound effect, it really gives the effect and makes a big difference. So sound is super important. So if we're editing these for you, we'll probably add in some like nice music that kind of sets the mood, but adding music makes a huge difference in a project for sure. And there was one more little movie magic thing I wanted to show you. It's kind of funny. Okay. So you can see that. It's just, yeah, that's the League of the Moving Mustaches. So, they're like, oh, well, we don't want to actually hurt anyone. How do we make it look like, we shot her with an arrow with sound and, just holding the arrow just like this with the camera, shooting it, gives that effect. So the sky's the limit. If you're thinking to yourself, okay, I really want to show excitement. I kind of like the idea of excitement as an emotion. Then how are we going to portray that? So showing people's faces and expressions, like capturing that moment. Even thinking of like, oh, if someone's hands are shaking with excitement, getting that detail, like capturing it. And sometimes I think with video, people are very shy, but you kind of have to be a bit unapologetic about it and just go in, with the intention of capturing. And obviously, you have to be respectful, but like thinking of the mood that you're creating and your goal, and then how you're going to capture the footage that you need to tell that story. Yeah, and I think the most important part is going to be just before, if you're going to interview someone, before you start doing that or thinking about setting up the camera, just like sitting the person down. Because if you're following them around and they're walking all around, it's going to be very erratic. But if you sit the person down and they're not going to like get up and go anywhere, and then like find a place, tape your phone so that it's not moving all around. And just asking those questions where you're going to get visual and audio of the moment. Yeah, that's about it. I had a little activity that I was going to do. I'll just quickly show you what I had in mind, which was, okay, I'm going to tell you two stories. And okay, so here's the first story. Okay, the first story, I'm holding my webcam. Okay, once upon a time, there was a bus load full of watermelons, and it was going down the street, and it finally reached its destination. Okay, the end. This is a very simple story. Okay, and here's my second story. Once there was an apple tree, and it didn't produce any apples. So the family decided as a joke that they would tie apples on the tree with ribbons. Okay, so they're both nonsense stories, but which one did you like take in?
The apple story.
Yeah. Because I
almost threw up listening about the pumpkins.
It wasn't even pumpkins, it was watermelons.
See? All the same, big round thing.
Yeah, it's hard to focus on the details of a story if there's a lot going on, and if someone's holding the camera, if it's moving around, you're sort of, it's really hard on your brain and your eyes. So if you have to have moments like that, like coming in the door of the house or whatever, it's okay, but you have to mix it with stuff that's still and stable to get that message across.
It can sometimes work to take multiple stills too, right? Snap, snap, and just lots of stills in a row. That can be worked in post, I guess, so to say, to pull them together in a way that it could be interesting too. Like a snap, like a still frame, right? But all in, letting people move, but just snap stills of the movement, because maybe that's the only choice we have. Maybe.
I would say going into it, if you're planning on doing photography only, then having a book or and a pen or some way to write something down in the moment, to write down quotes to go with the photos would help. So if they do say something that's like, oh, that was really beautiful, you will forget it if you don't write it down. Like there's, it's guaranteed. I would forget. So just write it down and then maybe cue yourself on, it's like, okay, the hug, on what the photo is, so you know what to pair it with later. If you are, dropping off a lot of baskets and it's overwhelming and you'll forget, just give yourself those little cues that just amplify the story a little bit more.
I also like what we usually do is having a couple of questions maybe ahead of time to ask, that we just, you have like maybe 2 or 3 questions that you ask every participant, something easy to answer, where we could have like those beautiful, we could have a picture and a quote. Like, anyway, lots to consider. It's coming up soon.
Yeah.
And I feel like I didn't introduce my trusty cohort. This is our so for people who don't know, this is Jennifer Bennett Pond. This is our senior active living coordinator here at the CRC. So just so you know.
Cool.
What is your question?
Do you have an app that's good for basic video editing?
I edit everything in like Adobe Suite, okay. If I was gonna do a little tiny video and I was just gonna not spend a whole lot of time on it, I would probably edit it in TikTok, actually. I'm not gonna lie. I would probably edit it in TikTok because you can put in all kinds of clips. There's a lot of ways that you can add and take out sound, and you don't have to post it. You can just save it as a draft. So sometimes I'll do that. And then there's something you can do to scrub out the watermark, so depending on what it is. But in terms of like an app on the phone, I don't use my phone to edit videos because I'm editing videos that are file size is so big, I would never be able to like even put it on my phone. Yeah. So I would, there's Final Cut Pro is like a small program that I think there's a free download for. If anyone is interested in getting into like serious video editing, DaVinci Resolve, the series that is with Blackmagic cameras, they're like cinema cameras for like making Hollywood movies. They have a free version of DaVinci Resolve that you can download. You need to have a good computer and a large amount of space. They're trying to kind of get into the industry because Adobe is so prevalent, like the Adobe Creative Suite. So they have a version, and they'll say, what mask do you want? And you can pick Adobe. So all the tools are the same as Adobe. There's like a little razor cut to trim footage, and it's the same, and the pointer is the same, and it will mask whatever program it is that you're used to editing with. But if you want to try having like a timeline that has multiple sounds overlapping, multiple video clips overlapping, that's a good place to start, is with DaVinci Resolve, and it's free. Yeah.
It's also good old iMovie, which everyone has on their cell phones.
iMovie, yeah, no, I don't use that.
Yeah, well, it's easy and it's free. It comes with most iPhones. So if you have an iPhone or on your computer.
Sweet. And does it download as like an MP4?
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, because you want, so any kind of little video editing software you're using, you want it to be in an MP4 format, probably for web.
Yeah. Yeah, it's easy. It's just easy. And I always think easy and free. What's like, and it's fairly easy to use. I think most people, and again, if I always say, if you ever get stuck, YouTube is really your best friend. Like YouTube and Google, search whatever you want, because guaranteed like hundreds of thousands of people have had the same problem and there's a tutorial for you on it on YouTube. Like even if you're looking for free movie editing, like, you know, I would type that into YouTube and see what comes up from Google.
Mm-hmm.
So on that note, are we feeling good? Are we feeling like we can stop the recording?
Ready to go out and
which I'm going to do. So jazz hands. Goodbye.